Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice and also available wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us in the chat whenever we go live. We like to have fun in the comment section. Throw your questions into the show. But Darby, let's get started. We've got start of spring training. We get a lot of best shape of your life posts, a lot of pictures of batting practice through chain link fences on beat reporters' cell phones. It is an interesting time of year. I love the start of spring training, and we've talked about this lots of times. I get like really disinterested with the games and the game start, but I love this part of spring training. You get to hear from a lot of players. We're going to talk about some of the quotes that we've been seeing and some of the storylines that we're going to get to follow. There's been a lot more news, I think, around baseball than we've had in the Rays camp so far, which is probably a good thing. There's been a lot of
keep it that way. Let's keep it that way.
Injuries elsewhere. Today we had Tony Clark resigning from the MLBPA, which is coming at a really big moment as we look like we're headed towards another work stoppage at the end of this season. But let's turn our focus to Rays camp because we do have some stuff to talk about. And I think we got to start the show with Junior Caminero. Spoke to the media today and did it in English. And I think that was a big step in he had been speaking English, and a lot of guys will speak English in the clubhouse and on the field. Even though they're not quite comfortable giving an interview in English, they don't want to be misquoted or misinterpreted in any way. But yeah, Junior Caminero gives this interview. There's talks of contract extension. Obviously, he's preparing for the World Baseball Classic. He's going to be, and he is, the face of the franchise moving forward. And it seems like after his breakout season in 2025, he can go into 2026 embracing that role as the face of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely taken those early on sort of steps to try to embrace that limelight and embrace that that position. And it's not an insignificant thing to do because the best player on a team is not often necessarily automatically face of the franchise, and it's not necessarily somebody who's wanting to be that like level of stardom or the responsibility of being the person that's getting all those questions from the media. They're not getting all of the answers of like, if the team's losing, why aren't you doing more? Even if you're like 3 for 4 and 2 home runs and a double, it's like, well, you lost by 1. You could have had a 3rd home run. That double could have been through, and that's that like pressure and somebody who I think like very close with Junior and will be on the same World Baseball Classic. Jose Ramirez knows very well. He hits the I think somebody made a joke about the Guardians lineup last year was like Jose Ramirez and a bunch of raccoons in trench coats standing on top of each other, and that's basically what it is. So the idea of the Rays lineup's a little better than that, but there is some raccoon trench coat-esque elements to it, and so it is going to be a lot on Caminero and Yandy and Aranda, and Yandy's one that has, he's been a kind of silent leader, but he has definitely not been a person who seems to want to be the spotlight guy. He has represented the Rays in the All-Star game. He has been one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball over the last couple of years, but he has not really been that forward-facing. He is the star of this team. He is the leader. He is, the guy. And it does feel like Caminero is the person who is really embracing that role. And the Rays have kind of missed that, I think, in the last few years.
They've definitely missed that. And this World Baseball Classic story where we've been talking about Junior Caminero going to the WBC for over a year now, watching what he did in the Dominican Winter League a year ago. And I said on this show, I said, I think he would rather win a World Baseball Classic for the DR than win a World Series title. I still believe that. And if he is the star for that DR team, and he's got a lot of great company with him on that DR
Mm-hmm.
team, they're going to be one of
Mm-hmm.
the favorites in the tournament. If he can play a big role, and it sounds like at the start of the tournament, he's going to be given the nod at third base. Jose Ramirez is going to be out for the start of the tournament and may join the team in the
Yeah.
later rounds. So maybe they moved Ramirez to DH and Caminero stays at third, or I don't know how they work that out. But Caminero's talking about he's been wanting to be on this team even if he was the water boy. So he wants to play for the DR in the World Baseball Classic. And if you rewind 3 years ago, Randy Rosarena for Team Mexico was like really the World Baseball Classic helped him gain like global superstardom. And then all of a sudden he was in Bad Bunny lyrics and he is like the
Mm-hmm.
sportsman of the year in Mexico. And he was able to captivate a global audience. And I think Caminero is going to have that same sort of appeal, like a Rosarena. The difference is he's like 5 or 6 years younger than a Rosarena was when all of that happened. He had a 45 home run season, and he is very much at the start of his big league career and could still be years away from his prime. And so this is different from what a Rosarena went through 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I think it does beg the question is what is Caminero's long-term future with the Tampa Bay Rays? He's got right now 5 more years of team control. This year and next year will be his final pre-arbitration years where they can keep him at or around the league minimum salary. And if he does anything, like he did last season over the next 2 seasons, those arbitration numbers are going to get pretty high pretty quick
Mm-hmm.
over those 3 following seasons. But it seems like this would be the candidate for the Tampa Bay Rays to try to lock up to a long-term extension like they've done in the past with guys like Evan Longoria and Wander Franco. The question is, it takes two to tango. Is
Mm-hmm.
Junior Caminero or is his agent interested in coming to the table and talking with the Rays? I'm sure they're interested in coming to the table. The question is, can they come to an agreement, and could that happen before the start of the 2026 season?
I feel like there's a lot of smoke there, and there's been, this is the time of year, somewhere in the spring, there's like the extension kind of period where people are just kind of getting ready for the season, and you're kind of doing that. A lot of the negotiations now are not for trades or free agents anymore, although there is still some free agents out there for teams. It's a lot of like looking inward, kind of bookkeeping going into the year and kind of getting that done before the season starts. And then you kind of sometimes there are early season like extensions that teams sign, but a lot of times you kind of want to button your own business up
Yeah.
before opening day. And so there it does feel like there is a bit of a time it does feel like there's a bit of a time period to potentially sign this where I think he is interested. I think his agent is the same agent as Jose Ramirez.
Mm.
So Jose Ramirez, who has signed 3 extensions with Cleveland, including this offseason. Um, I think there's a real opportunity, mutually important opportunity for both the Rays and for Junior to hook up on an extension that I think it's got to be difficult, right? Like that's going to be a big money deal. How many arbitration years would you be, giving up? But you're also locking in the next couple years, like you said, are pre-arb, so you're going to be well underpaid what
Yeah.
you deserve, and then the arb years, who knows, right? Like you could, those are going to be big, but are they going to be big? Your kind of hands are in the arbiters, and this is going to be after the CBA. So you don't know what that looks like. What does arbitration look like in the next CBA? What does the ARB increases? If there's a salary cap, does that affect it at all?
There's going to be a
So I
work
think
stoppage.
a work stoppage where you're not getting any money
Right.
for a year or maybe. So I don't know. I think there is a. We always talk about these extensions, and we immediately think about like, oh, the player gave up so much, is so team friendly. There is risk. There is absolutely risk. Like Junior Caminero had an amazing rookie year, but we don't know with injuries. We don't know with the future. We don't know. We have seen people have these breakouts. I don't think Junior's going to have that. I think he's going to be still great, but I think there is a chance. Like he is so young at 22 now, coming into this year, where you can get your kind of generational money locked up, secured. Don't have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about arbitration. You don't have to worry about going in and proving deserve this much money, and then your team is saying, well, your defense is kind of a little rough and like got all these errors, and you're like, well, but I hit these home runs, and you go, well, these are home runs.
Is he
You
going to
all
hit the
these
home
that
runs? He is a prime regression candidate for his home run total, moving away from Steinbrenner Field. A guy I look at,
30
like
home run hit, a
Fernando.
35 home run hitter versus a 45 home run hitter gets paid a lot different in our So
Well, look at Fernando Tatis. I know there was some PED stuff in there that I can't tell you how much that played a role, but his age 22 season, he has 42 bombs. Since then, he hasn't sniffed that. And Fernando Tatis has found other ways to be a
yeah,
very valuable player. He has other skills that I don't think Caminero has. Caminero, I don't think the more I look at his profile, like there were some doubts even early on last season that, okay, he doesn't lift the ball enough. The
a
defense
lot of
is kind of rough.
double
He's still
play
crazy young.
king.
Yeah, he was going to break the double play record. Like we
Yeah.
still don't know who Junior Caminero, what he'll look like at the finished product at age 27, 28, 29, those prime years. And it could be a 40, potentially 50 home run type of hitter.
hmm
It could be a higher average. He gets better at third. You can count on him for 30. We don't know yet. And a lot of things could happen. It could go in a lot of different directions. And like you said, incentivizes, get paid now. Get those dollars locked up now.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to paint the like negative picture for Junior, but like he has the work ethic, I think, to become like an elite level hitter with the bat speed he has, with the power that he
Oh yeah.
has, and to suddenly elevate more and just get better and better each year at hitting. There is risk there, though. Like that is not a sure thing. But the other side of it is for him, if he gets that pitch that goes inside and hits the hamate bone, and now you're missing some time, that's sapping your power, and then you come back, and then there's another weird collision at first. Like look what happened to Jonathan Aranda, complete fluke
Mm-hmm.
incident. You step on a bag wrong. Look at what's going on with like Ronald Acuna. Like Ronald Acuna Jr., one of like MVP level player when healthy, has had some really weird and unfortunate bad luck. And so I I think when you look at this, I think there's a deal. Like it's not going to be a cheap deal. Like there's no, the time for that is when you traded Cleveland, if you wanted to really get the cheap deal. But Junior Caminero absolutely should get paid a ton in an extension, especially if you're buying out free agent years. But this is where there is a balance, though, that like Junior can't say he gets paid as a perennial 45 home run all star 300 hitter. Baseball is all about like sample size, and you got to be able to do it. And then the biggest thing
Do it
is you got to
again.
do it again. And this season, every pitcher is going to be coming in saying, I've seen how people have gotten him out. I know where the mistakes are, and I know he is the key to this lineup. So I'm going to bring everything I got on him. And if I have to lose him, I'll worry about Jonathan Aranda, who's really good, but I think I can keep him in the yard, whereas I'm not going to let Junior beat me. Or if it gets behind him, Gavin Lux. I'm pretty happy about facing him. So that's I think there is when we think about extensions, I think knee jerk online is always like terrible deal. Players should just bet on themselves, just roll it out. And I just think that is super easy for people to say when it's not
Right.
your money, it's not your body, it's not your career. And when, if it fails,
Mhm.
you get to just keep on living your life. And that player uh, has nothing. How many Evan Whites, how many John Singletons that have
Yeah.
there been that like glad they got secured that money because baseball is really, really hard. And, and not to compare Caminero to those guys, but how many guys have just, had the injury bug, just greatly shortened
Right.
careers? So I think there is something here. I think Junior's comments, you can't really read too much into those because they are very, very basic. He says he loves Tampa, loves to stay here, but that's not, he's focusing on what he can control and it's between his agent and the team. And that's true, right? This is, Junior Caminero is probably not going in there being like, looking at contract law. That's why he's paying a good percentage to a guy to do that. Um, and so, yeah, I think probably Neander and uh, his agent are going to be quite busy, but I think there is a deal here. I think Caminero is somebody, and the agent is this is a setup that feels like there is real momentum towards an extension that would make sense for both teams.
Probably, do you think before or after the World Baseball Classic?
I think I will say it's actually going to be before. I'm going to say it's before. I think earlier today I said after. I said after before the season he comes back, and but I think there is a deal that happens before the World Baseball Classic, so he gets to go there, like Jose Ramirez, and not feel any stress about the contract side of things, and then
Hmm.
just go on and just focus entirely on the baseball side of things. Because I'm gonna say that I bet for Junior, the contract, the deal and stuff, I think a lot of players want to get that done before the regular season. And I think you might be on to something that like the regular season starts with the World Baseball Classic. That's when real baseball starts for Junior Caminero. And so that's my guess. I'll just say I'm gonna throw that out there as a bet. We'll see if it's
I
right or
like
wrong.
that. I do think, and again, I think Rafa Nieves' agent is reasonable. He's not a Boris type. I think he'd be willing to work with the Rays. I do wonder though if Caminero goes out and he wins the World Baseball Classic with the DR and he hits a bunch of big home runs and he is their star. If there is that, like, okay, the price has changed, or maybe we want to hold off on signing this extension today because we have a real star in our hands. I don't know if it changes. Like, it wouldn't change the calculus from the Rays standpoint, but Junior and his agent might take a look at this and say we need to reevaluate what he is as a brand and as a player.
Mm.
Nieves did talk to Mark Topkin last year. It was in the Tampa Bay Times. Started talking about extension stuff last year, and we talked about it on the show then. He said, quote, the fact that at this point they haven't knocked on his door, the only reason is that their hands are tied. That has to do, in my opinion, with a lot of factors between the sale of the club, which is now done, the issue with the stadium, which we think is headed in the right direction, but it's not done, and the Wander Franco question mark, which Wander Franco, I think, is going to a retrial. I can't claim to know anything about what's going to happen there. I know you're, holding pretty strong to the fact that he will never be able to get back into the country. Therefore, his contract, he will not be able to be paid throughout the remainder of his contract.
I don't think he has enough money stashed away to buy the Trump Gold
Yeah,
card that
that's
Nicki
right. I don't
Minaj
think so either.
got.
I don't
I don't
think
think
so
he's got. I
either.
don't think he's got that money. If he did, I think that it's one thing, but I don't think he can get a cash advance on his deal.
And then the other thing that Nieves said, and he started throwing out dollar amounts, which I thought is a crazy thing to say. This is back from August of 2025. He
There's a
said,
reason
"quote
why
they,
he signed some extensions with his
he,
players, though. I
yeah,
think there. This is the very opposite of Boris. He is somebody that's will opening to deals.
he said, quote, they know it's going to cost them probably 150 to 200 million dollars today, based on the Corbin Carroll, the Roman Anthony, the Wander Franco, Julio Rodriguez comps of guys that signed with less than 1 year of service. So that was based off of last year, but when he was under 1 year. The Rays are not in position to make that commitment with all the question marks surrounding their financial future. That's why I think they haven't made an attempt. And he did say the end, and again, I think this part is agent speak. And honestly, by the time they're out of those question marks, it might be too late. I definitely think that's agent speak. You got to hold
Yeah.
their feet to the fire a little bit. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that the new Rays ownership group wasn't doing the legwork on a lot of things that they're putting in action now before they officially took over the team. I would say it's probably unlikely they were having Junior Caminero extension talks while they're trying to buy the team. There
Hmm.
are, really bigger fish to fry when you're buying a Major League Baseball franchise. So I think when those comments were made, that was before Rafa Nieves had any conversations with the new group. I'm sure, at least informally, those conversations have happened, even though it sounds like there have been no formal discussions regarding a new contract to this point. But really, the formal negotiations only happen when it's time to put pen to
Yeah.
paper,
Once you're
especially with
starting to
extensions.
dot I's.
You
Yeah.
usually don't hear like weeks of like
Hmm.
buzz before an extension because there's no one else negotiating. There's not other suitors. It's
There's
just
no but there's
Nieves.
nothing to leak. There's nothing to
Right.
leak, right? Like that's the thing is there's no team that says calls up Kenny and be like, "Hey, we're really in on this guy, but the Mets have offered this, which is a low ball, and you can write you can put it in the Athletic that like the Mets are in, the Brewers are in, and the Rays are a mystery team. Like there's no way to like kind of like deflate or inflate value. It's just one on
And if
one.
there is a leak, it's a bad sign for where the negotiations are at because it's just the two
Right.
sides. And then you would know that the other side leaked any
Where did
information,
this come from?
and that's not good. So, again, we don't know anything, right? We won't know
I
anything until we get the Jeff Passan tweet that the Rays have agreed to an extension
Well, and
with,
that's
with
and
Junior
that's right. Like
Caminero.
we've seen this with so many extensions, like Jose Ramirez, Romani. Like they do just kind of like one day you're just like boop
Yeah.
extension. You're like, oh, that whoa, I didn't know that was happening. Or I mean, Jose Ramirez signed an extension in the midst of a contract he already had. Like it was a restructure. So that's neat.
Yeah.
Like that also you don't really see too much. Um, I think when it comes to this, okay, I think he has a good point with the fact that the pending sale, it's hard to negotiate contracts when you aren't writing the check and you're writing somebody else's check. You're spending
Yep.
somebody else's money. The stadium thing, I think, is obviously the front burner for the business side of the Rays, obviously. Um, I don't I okay. The Wander stuff, the question mark. And I know I'm very much on the like he's never coming to the country again. So he will not play baseball in Major League Baseball again, side of things. But I also just as the contract side of things, I really just do not think this is the sticking point.
It's not an albatross of a contract. Like, it's not like this.
It would suck to have to pay this.
Right.
Because you
But
would
it's
because you're gonna have to cut them and
You'd
you're
rather
gonna
pay this
like have to
than
pay it
whatever
for
the
somebody
Patrick
else.
Corbin contract was, where he's actively
Right.
hurting your baseball team while you're paying him $30
Yeah,
million
no,
a year.
at least this you have to pay a accused sex criminal convicted. Actually, hold on, sorry, he's
Yeah,
convicted. That retrial will
for
happen, but
now.
until that
Yeah.
point, he's convicted. He is guilty. I don't need to soften it. No, but like it's not like you're like we can't do anything because we might have to pay. I think like 90 million left or
Yeah.
100 something like
Well,
that.
and
Like
there
you
wouldn't be
just
back pay because he can't. The years that have
nope,
passed
nope. It
are
would just be
already.
from what's going on. So yeah, it's like I don't know. They just bought the team for over $1 billion. They're trying to do $1 billion stadium deal and then an $8 to $10 billion development deal. Are we really saying that this 100 million or whatever that's left is just like we can't do any future money deals until that's settled? I don't think that's the thing. I do think the stadium part of things is a
And
is a big
television.
factor. Television too. Although I do feel like the television side of things is more settled. We don't know the work stoppage. I think that's the biggest thing. But I do think Manfred's has his idea of what the money looks like for
Y-
that. But the
Yeah, you're not going to go
future
broke on
of
TV. Someone will
but the
pay. Like, You're gonna get paid. It might not be as much as you thought, but
It could be a bigger boon depending upon how the CBA
sure.
fight happens. But I do think this is I think when you're looking at budget projections, the biggest question marks by far that drive things right now are going to be stadium, looming CBA. Everything else is noise. Everything else is just minor stuff. Those are not the hurdles. Those two big ones, those are hurdles. Those are potentially things that could stop you from making a deal. Those are also things that potentially allow you to the work stoppage. How do you think that plays into factors
I
with
can't
teams?
even begin to
Because every
imagine.
team is having to deal with this. This is an equal thing.
I don't know how does it affect contracts if there's no if there's no 2027 season. Do you still pay out guaranteed
No,
contracts?
no, you only get paid because that's when there was the COVID shortened season. There
Right.
was everybody got truncated money because
That was the
it
fight,
was
and they finally got it to
yeah,
pro rata where you get paid like per game
right.
what you'd make. That was the Blake Snell on
That
the on Twitch. Like
hmm
I just want to get paid. So
so
I
like
honestly have no clue. We need to get a lawyer. We need to get some billable hours on here and try to figure
I
out. I have no clue.
but
I
that is
don't.
the tricky part is like how if you lose a season though, it that does count as service time, right? So like your
Oh
contract goes, but I don't think you probably wouldn't get back pay because you didn't perform
yeah,
the duties. So it would be
yeah. I don't
your
know.
service time is done, but now you've lost that money. I because that's always been the thing is that the owners always feel like they can starve the players because this is a toy that prints money for them, and for the players this is their livelihood. And so if they haven't, the owners have their Swiss bank accounts, then they're fine.
So
They
wouldn't
might
you
have
think
to
that
cut down on
wouldn't you think that
something.
incentivizes the Rays to get a deal done this off before this season?
I think
Because
so. I
let's
think there's an
say
absolute. I think there's
because
absolutely.
you
I
start
think
doing
okay.
calculations of you get through this season and let's say hypothetically they don't play next season, then all of a sudden you come back for 2028 and Junior's in arbitration and he's got 3 years left, and him and his agent
Yeah.
are like, let's ride this thing out, let's go to free agency.
I mean, I think that's a big part of it, right?
So
I think so. I guess that's the thing is that it wouldn't be. I would say any bonuses because those are guaranteed up front.
yeah, right, right,
You'd
yeah.
potentially, I think that could be a way to do it, like where you
Mm,
are securing him, but then he's also getting that assurance that like, because a lot of times these extensions, the first couple years when it's pre-arb are still like very small, like 1 million, 1 million, and then it jumps
right,
up
right. It's all
to like
backloaded. With
25,
yeah,
25, 25, 40, 50. So like, I think maybe that's where you do a little bit of a bonus up front. So that way Camaro's saying like, listen, we don't know what's going to happen.
but I want to get
This is
paid.
beyond them. So like, let's see how much do I get up front, but not necessarily salary. I don't know. This is the trick. But this
And
CBA thing, this is that a reason why Jose Ramirez re-signed,
yeah,
like re-upped, like they renegotiated his deal. I should say it's not re-signing. It's renegotiating a deal that was in place for more years to finish his career basically there. But that makes me, again, windhorse fingers. Like it makes me think like, okay, everything I look at right now is basically built around the idea that we don't know how much baseball, full season, half a season, no season, no baseball for 2 years. We don't know. There's just been talks, and a lot of the talks I am also taking with a grain of salt because it's negotiations. Sure, an owner on background is going to say we're prepared to sit out for 30 years until, like to get what we do. Like obviously they're not going to be like honestly, we have no cards. We're doomed. We're screwed. I hope they don't counter because we're done. They're gonna be like, we will crush you. And so like I'm taking everything with a grain of salt, but I'm also seeing every single move with the frame of how does this what does this say about the CBA? What does it say about the team's idea of what looks going forward? And I don't know what that means. It's like that definitely means there's going to be a season, or it definitely doesn't mean there's going to be a season. And I just think that's a big part of all of these negotiations.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll see. I do want to get into the World Baseball Classic. We talked about Junior going with the Dominican Republic. Let's go through the list of all of the Rays participating, and then we can go into detail about a couple of them. Jonathan Aranda going back and going to represent Mexico like he did in 2023. A couple of guys on the U.S. team, Garrett Clevenger and Griffin Jacks, are going to be part of the Team USA bullpen. Gary Gill Hill and Owen Wild, two race prospects representing Great Britain. Yoendris Gomez, new bullpen addition, is going to be on Team Venezuela. And Edwin Uceda, who was going to be Junior's teammate on the DR, is skipping with a quote unquote cranky shoulder, is what Kevin Cash called it. He is expected to be ready for opening day. It sounds like it's precautionary, and they're just keeping them back from the WBC, which stinks for Uceda, but is probably best for his 2026 season and for the Rays bullpen. I want to talk about the guys that are going to be in the U.S. bullpen, but Gary Gill Hill, I know that's a prospect that you've been a fan of the last couple of seasons, and Owen Wild. I don't know much about Owen Wild. He pitched at Double A Montgomery. He's a little old. He was a little old for the level. Is not really a prospect that you see as someone that could have a major league impact anytime soon. But talk to me a little bit about Gary Gill Hill and why you like him as a prospect in this race system.
He's been kind of overshadowed quite a bit by, I mean, the Rays pitching was kind of thin for a little bit, and now it is really filled out with the additions of Brody Hopkins and Ferret and like they've kind of like really boosted it up. But Gil Hill's an interesting guy. He's I think I think the biggest thing with him is there is a lot of outcomes there. I think he has that middle of the rotation upside. There is also like he may never throw a major league pitch like
Yeah.
downside. Like he is not a sure thing. More in that like 45 grade,
Mm-hmm.
type of guy. But the type of development arm that does a lot of things well, like grades out at like average to above average tools and like change up, slider, fastball, and like
Jack of all trades, master of none.
yeah, and that kind of pitchability type, like where he does have like, or at least it shows that he could have really good command. I think he is somebody that is something worth watching. I think the World Baseball Classic is kind of great for
Yeah.
him because next year is his Rule 5. I don't know if he really would be taken. He is good enough that you could maybe stash him as like a long reliever. But
But you could also
this is the
float him
opportunity for
for
him.
right. And with a prospect like this, I've never been like enamored by him. Like again, he doesn't have like a true plus pitch, but he doesn't have like any big weaknesses either. The strikeouts were down in high A last year, so
Yeah.
I'm a little. The walks were down too. Like the command looked good, so I'm imagining he'll be in Double A right away this season. Um, I was like not super excited when he was like one of the top Rays pitching prospects. Now he has slid down after the additions of the Hopkins and the Ty Johnsons and the Michael Ferrets and a few other guys. And I like where he is at now. It's kind of like organizational depth where like you could totally see this guy as a big league pitcher, but you could also see him as part of a trade. I think his name was thrown out there in some trade ideas. I don't know if he was actually mentioned in real rumors, but as he moves closer to Rule 5 eligibility, the Rays will often just trade those guys and kind of
Yeah.
like restart the clock. Like you trade a Gil Hill who's about to hit Rule 5 eligibility for a
For the
younger
next Gil
guy
Hill.
that's got like 2 or 3 seasons before they're Rule 5 eligible, and it kind of just keeps your farm system young. You're not worried about protecting as many guys when it gets to that time the next off season. So yeah, interesting spot for a Gil Hill. I don't know if we need to go into too much more detail. I don't know what Great Britain's prospects are in this tournament. I don't even know who
Not
they're playing.
good.
Are they
Not,
playing?
not
That's
good.
kind of it's good for him if they're playing like some good teams and he gets to face some major
Yeah.
league quality hitting.
It's good for the
Um,
Rays too, in the sense that I do think he is the most like I. he I think is a guy that they probably would want to trade just because they're so stacked at the top that
Yeah,
I don't really see a path for him uh, before you kind of to make some tough conversations about his eligibility. Not unlike he like kind of Yoniel Cure in a lot of ways where you had to kind of add him too early and then he kind of goes on there. But I do think like if he can show a little bit of something against higher level competition, uh, that boosts his stock up and boosts his stock up for the Rays as well. So
right.
I'm intrigued to see him in action. I don't again like I think there's a lot of outcomes. Command toolsy pitchability guys are tough because they're not ever going to be super sexy, but you've seen a lot of success from guys like Ryan Yarbrough and Gil Hill has much better speed velocity than that, but like that similar level of like doesn't walk a lot of guys, stays in the zone, but can you survive with it with the
Right.
pitches that you have? So
Jonathan Aranda for Mexico. It looks like he'll be their starting first baseman. Will probably hit in the middle of that lineup along with Rosarena. They also have, Jaron Duran. Isaac Paredes is on that team as well. Some other guys that have played the big Alec Thomas, Rowdy Tellez, Luis Urias, Austin Barnes will be their catcher. So you'd imagine Aranda's probably hitting third or fourth on that in that lineup. A sneaky good team. Like I don't think Mexico has a chance to win this tournament, but they've got a couple of interesting pitchers, and who knows? Maybe they go on a run. A Rosarena catches fire like he is able to do, and I think that'll be a fun team to watch. I've enjoyed watching them in the past World Baseball Classic, so I'll be rooting
they got
for
some
Johnny
bats.
Aranda.
They
Yeah,
got some bats. I do worry about that rotation. And with Randy, they need first half of last season Randy, not playoff Randy, for the Mariners for sure. But if he gets hot, he can get hot for a little bit. And I think Aranda is a good opportunity here to like really kind of emerge. He's such a good hitter, and like this is a great opportunity for him at that big stage. To
here.
like kind of show to make we talked about Junior Caminero making his star known. This is a good opportunity for Aranda
Yeah,
too.
Mexico, some problematic names of the pitching staff, both with their baseball ability and their off field with
Yeah.
Julio
Yeah.
Urias. But the other guy, like Luis Sessa, Patrick Sandoval, Jose Arquidi, Taijuan Walker, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, you could convince me that like this team could put it all together. But yeah, Aranda, I think, I mean, you could argue that he is the best player on that team. Jaron Duran is on there, and I would say him and Jaron Duran are going to be big parts for Team Mexico. Garrett Clevenger and Griffin Jacks on Team USA in that bullpen. Clevenger, interesting because Ken Rosenthal reported that Clevenger's name has been thrown out there in trade talks.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that aspect of it before we get into their role on Team USA. Garrett Clevenger right now is the only like true left-handed reliever in the Rays bullpen. I'm not going to say he's definitely not the only left-handed pitcher that will pitch in relief sometimes for the Rays in 2026. You've got Steven Matz and Ian Seymour and Joe Rock, but he is like the true left-handed reliever. So his name being brought up in trade talks, that's interesting to me. I know there's a couple other lefties in camp on that are non-roster invitees. What were your thoughts on hearing Clevenger's name? Like, if you had traded Clevenger in November or December, sure. In
Yeah.
February, that seems a little strange to me.
Uh, it does feel like a weird timing. I do think Clevenger is somebody whose value is really, really high, and he's very good, but it's a reliever, and I think those are the most fungible. So if you can get like a kind of a big return, then you kind of take that. But it does feel like an odd timing right now. And so I almost wonder how much of this smoke is discussions that are seeds planted for the middle of the season,
Yeah.
like the deadline. I mean, I think you got like options to replace him in the pen. Uh to add that lefty, but none are at his level. And I think like trading away Mason Montgomery earlier, that kind of felt like your biggest, like slide right into that slot. Um, I'm not opposed to a Garrett Clevenger trade, but I have a hard time seeing like where that would fit into the Rays currently. And like if you do get a big minor league return, that's fine. But how close to the majors? Where's the positions? And if that's the case, then like do you just wait to the midseason and trade him at the deadline
Right.
instead?
That feels more likely. In Clevenger, he's not a lefty specialist. They don't really exist anymore, and the Rays,
Mm-mm.
haven't had one since the rule changes really. And Clevenger has shown an ability to get lefties and righties out. I think going into a season without any lefties in the bullpen is not something the Rays would do. So if they were to trade a
No.
Clevenger, like Steven Matz, it's being reported like he's in the rotation to start the season. So with the Nick Martinez signing, now it's looking like Ian Seymour is on the outside looking in for the rotation, but that could also mean that Ian Seymour is penciled in for the bullpen to start the season. I really have no idea what they're going to do with him. You might want to keep him stretched out in Durham, or you might say, we're going to use him as a multi-inning reliever in the big leagues because of what we saw out of him last year, and he's going to help us win games now. And then maybe you keep him in that multi-inning role where maybe sometimes, maybe it's going to be he starts and Nick Martinez, or he opens and Nick Martinez comes in as your bulk pitcher. I think we're going to get more weird with that, so maybe it's Ian Seymour in there. I don't want to get too far off topic from Garrett Clevenger, but yeah, interesting guy who to be mentioned in trade talks. Uh, Clevenger and Jax are part of an absolutely stacked Team USA. I think the most stacked team that they have ever brought into this tournament. Obviously, you've got Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal, the two best pitchers in the game are on your pitching staff, and behind them you've got Logan Webb and Joe Ryan, and then a number of other guys like Mason Miller, Clayton Kershaw, maybe the best starting pitcher of all time, will be on the roster. I don't know what role he'll play. But a ton of star power in the field. Bobby Witt, Aaron Judge, Roman Anthony, Bryce Harper, Alex Bregman, Cal Raleigh, like Kyle Schwarber. It is an all-star team. It is a team
Yeah.
that, alongside the Dominican Republic and Japan, will be the favorites to go all the way. So I think it's just cool to see their names on that roster. I think it could be, if you look at the bullpen names, and I know we've talked about Griffin Jacks. Is he going to start at any point this year? Is he going to be in the bullpen? I think, like, other than Mason Miller, he's probably the best reliever on this team not named Mason Miller.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's pretty exciting. He could get like the eighth inning in some of these big games for Team USA. And
He's
that's
going to be
pretty fun.
throwing like important outs. I mean, Clevenger too. Like that's like, the back end of that pen. Like the Rays are involved in that. Like
Hmm.
those two guys you could conceivably say are two of the 15 best relievers in Major League Baseball right now. If for
Sure.
anybody, like that's
Yeah.
not just the World Baseball Classic for Team USA, but for anybody. And so yeah, I think this is a really interesting. I mean, like Team USA, Japan, and Dominican Republic are the three juggernauts of this tournament. They're not the only teams that can win, and we've seen some big upsets. But what's really cool to see is how much the World Baseball Classic has just like grown and grown and grown to the point where it is a legit tournament. I mean, it was the last time too, and we've had some great moments throughout the years with it. But like these are the names like that you want to see if you were
Hmm.
like thinking like this is going to be a World Cup
Yeah.
of baseball, and that's what it is now. Like it really is like at this. I think there's always this talk, when it comes to any sport about like if it's not in the Premier League thing, then anything else is not worth it to risk injury or risk your career or
And
whatnot.
that's such
And I'm
it's such an American way of thinking about it,
such, yes, yeah. It is so just the United States specific type of thinking of
which
sports.
makes it cooler to see these names want to play
Yes,
for Team USA and saying
exactly.
we're taking this
It's
seriously.
and I do think there is a significant value to the players playing in this. Not just from a sense that like entertainment wise, not just from a sense of like this is really cool. I mean, we're watching the Olympics right now. It's really cool to see elite athletes representing their countries, and like competing against the best around the world in the spirit of just like competition. Like that's awesome. That's just
Yeah,
really cool, no matter the
competing for a
sport.
trophy.
And the thing is, I think there is a not insignificant value to this, to the players themselves and to their teams, because when they come back, we've talked about this, they haven't been playing insignificant spring training games where everybody's at a middle level, like everyone's in a various states of giving a crap. Like everybody's like, I don't know, maybe that person's trying, maybe this person's completely bored and hot and just like done. But this is like you have players really caring, really trying, and when the season starts, just a few weeks after this ends, you are basically rolling into that season fresh and at that competitive level. So you're not needing to start the season kind of getting warmed up. You are starting the season saying like, I just like mowed down, the middle of I took out, Randy Rosarena, Jonathan Aranda, Alejandro Kirk in a row. I'm feeling ready to go. And those guys were coming up in the bottom of the ninth, down two. Now I'm ready to start the season. I don't know. I think there's something to that too. I think it's really good for the game of baseball. It's good for, I think, the world to see these players. It's also just really great for fans like us to be able to watch the best compete, and you get these awesome moments, and you also get to see players who you're not going to see in Major League Baseball this season. You're going to get to see like Team Japan is going to be filled with guys that are, I mean, playing in Major League Baseball, but also might come over later, may not, may
Right.
stay in the Nippon leagues. And so it's awesome to see like the talent that's over there, whether they come over, whether we ever see them in Major League Baseball, whether they want to do that, or whether they, these storied careers over there at a storied baseball league. So I don't know. It's just awesome. I'm super psyched for this because like you, spring training is really awesome, and then very quickly just ready for actual baseball. Like it's awesome to see baseball back, and then very quickly, pretty much within a week, I'm like, all right, now I'm just ready to start it. And now, but this is something different, right?
Mhm.
This is like a real. This is when the season like really begins.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited. Jack's like this could be a big coming out party. I know Jackson's had good seasons in the past. He's had that notoriety, but it could be a big coming out party for him again in the World Baseball Classic. Yoendrix Gomez, we mentioned on Venezuela. Another like just a really solid team. When you've got players like Jackson Churio and Ronald Acuna and the Contreras brothers are playing and some pitcher like Ranger Suarez, Pablo. Well, no, it won't be Pablo Lopez anymore. It sounds like his
Hmm.
season is done. Andres Jimenez, Gleyber Torres, Eugenio Suarez. Like we didn't mention them. They could. That's another team that we hadn't mentioned. That probably has the pieces to be in the conversation of. Oh yeah, we Salvador Perez, future Hall of Famer. Like we could see this team winning it all. And I have no idea. I couldn't begin to tell you where Yoendrys Gomez fits in that bullpen. There's a number of guys that are some decent big league pitchers, but I'm sure he'll factor into their bullpen somehow. And
And
yeah,
this is a
good
much
opportunity
better
for him.
way for him to try to win a job with the Rays.
Yeah, than just pitching in the
That
Grapefruit League.
because like I don't know, like he has a real good shot like to be something. The Rays I think definitely think so. And like yeah, like him crushing in the Grapefruit League would be great. But like if he can do something here, that says a lot more because it's competitive.
Hmm.
It's getting competitive outs. So
Yeah.
I think this is great for the players like that.
Well,
He's
I'm very
fringe
excited to
guy.
watch the World Baseball Classic this year, and it's going to be a great appetizer before the major league season starts in about a month and a half. Darby, before we wrap up, I do want to. I've got like a fun little game that we can play. I want to kind of see where your thoughts are now that we've had a few days of the team in camp. We're hearing quotes. We're hearing what Kevin Cash or Eric Neander think about certain guys. We're hearing players speak to the media for the first time. And I kind of just want to take your temperature and see where you are. We've talked about the roster and where things stand. So we're going to do a kind of, you got to pick a player here. I'm going to throw two or three names at you, and it's not a would you rather, but it's what you think will happen this season. We'll start, I think, with a standard one. So more home runs this season, Yandy Diaz or Jonathan Aranda?
Aranda.
Is that Aranda with a bullet?
Yes. I think Aranda showed, I was not sure about Aranda's power, but I think he really showed a lot of power last year. And like, I actually feel like a lot of the Steinbrenner Field kind of like had some weird wind stuff with him that like, I don't know. I think he's going to really enjoy being back in the Trop as well.
Yeah.
And I think Jonathan Aranda's bat to ball skills generates a lot of power because he just is getting the bat onto the ball really consistently. Yandy's like, listen, we've seen a lot of home runs from Yandy popping it right over to that short porch in right field. It was nice when it was an even shorter porch last year. But I'm taking a Aranda, and I'll probably take it by at least 5 home runs.
Yeah, I was in the same kind of school of thought as you. More big league plate appearances, Jacob Melton or Chandler Simpson?
Chandler Simpson. I think that I can't ignore the conversations that have been happening every time Kevin Cash and Eric Neander are on getting interviewed.
We have to mention now. We haven't brought it up. Kevin Kiermaier back as a consultant,
That's
and
true. Yeah. We
it's
got some
been
photos
very
today.
it's been
Him
very
and Chandler.
Chandler Simpson centric. Like every time, oh, Kevin Kiermaier got hired, he's going to work with Chandler
He's
Simpson.
not there to
Here's
teach Cedric Mullins how to play
yeah,
the outfield. That's for damn sure.
here's a picture of Kevin Kiermaier with Chandler Simpson. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
not Jake. He's not.
It's
He's
like
not doing
a
individuals with Jake
personal
Fraley.
caddy. It's a personal mentor. They called up like maybe the best center fielder of our generation to personally tutor Chandler Simpson. So I think that kind of signifies if they're this like I, I think Kevin Cash talked about it on the official Rays podcast about how basically like he almost hit 300 as a rookie and
Yeah,
that there's a lot more like and then Eric Neander talked about how like in the minors like there's more walks in that in his game that like he thinks he could be a 350 on base guy
hmm.
and that it's just trying to get him comfortability in the outfield and being able to do that. So I think Jacob Melton has a better career path, but I do think I'm going to say Chandler Simpson is they're making an investment there.
Yeah.
I've been doubting it, but the more I see it, I can't like ignore the conversations. So I'll say Chandler.
More big league innings, Ian Seymour or Shane McClanahan?
Uh, that's a good one.
This one is tough because it's like almost strictly injury based. Like if McClanahan's
Yeah,
healthy, even if he doesn't throw a ton of innings, he would probably end
it
up
should be
more
more.
than Seymour.
I'll say
However,
McClanahan.
okay,
I'm gonna say Shane. I'll say Shane. I don't want to be I want to be
you're
optimistic.
not putting anything into the universe. Where
All the talk has been that like he's looking good, he's looking healthy, and so I'm gonna and here's the thing: the start of camp is the time where you find out when people are healthy or not. Everybody around the league suddenly everyone's like came in like Francisco Lindor. It's like I need surgery on my knee, and you're like, what? When did this happen? Like so, it's not even just like you got injured in camp. It's like you show up and you're like, yeah, I lost an arm. I lost an arm like 6 months ago. Dog ate it off. Just craziest thing. I've been hiding it with I've just been like keeping it in my pocket. But no, but Shane was not on those lists, right? The only injury on the list was moving Manny Rodriguez, who's recovering from surgery, to the 60-day. That was it. Everybody else came in clean whistle.
Yep.
USADA with the cranky arm is the only thing that's been said. So I'll believe it. I'll believe him.
Um, more saves this season. Edwin Useda or the field?
Oh, well, I'll take the field.
Yeah, I guess that. I mean, so the Rays have
I'll
kind of
take the
already
field,
said,
but I do think you picked the right guy there because I do think USAID is going to get a lot of saves. I don't think it's going to be Jax. I think he's going to be used as the fireman. I think
or
he's
as an
going to be
opener.
used. I think he's going to be used all over. Like I think
Yeah.
he's going to get important outs. I think USADA is going to get the last outs, which is very very key. But I don't think that necessarily you're like if you were stacking this lineup. I think Griffin Jax is your best reliever, or
Mhm.
he's one of your top three probably pitchers by like talent level with like Rasmussen and McClanahan, all things healthy. It's probably Jack's third, I would say. Um, that might be controversial to say, but I think that I'd probably put him third. So if you're using him as like I need an inning, I think he's your guy. So I think that might be the most important inning, might be in the eighth. So I think USAID is going to rack up a lot of saves, but I mean, I think the Rays are probably really happy to be able to open up that bullpen to a committee. The last couple of years with Fairbanks, I totally understand why they committed to him being the closer. I think it's the Rays work best, and I think a lot of teams work best when you can be a little bit more flexible with when you deploy your relief.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, and I think it will be a by committee approach this season. Um, I think this one is interesting, and we can end on this one. More plate appearances at the big league level, Taylor Walls or Carson Williams.
Oh man, I think Carson Williams will eventually take this job.
Eventually, like early enough to where he will have more
Will
plate
out. Yeah,
appearances.
I think so. Because I think Taylor Walls is gonna hit 167 again. He's gonna use. Here's the thing. I think he's gonna use the challenges, and that's gonna finally make Kevin Cash lose his mind. I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna be like, I listen. I love the guy, but now I'm done. He challenged
That
a
might
pitch
be
in the
what puts him
second
over the
inning.
edge.
He
Well,
challenged
here's
it in
the
the
thing:
second inning.
is there's opportunities for Walls to lose playing time even without Williams on the roster with Ben
Right.
Williamson there. And if Ben
Totally.
Williamson starts to carve into that playing time, and then all of a sudden it's the middle of May, it's time to bring Carson back up. Carson becomes your shortstop. Williamson kind of bounces around the infield. Walls is gone. Yeah, I think there are more. I don't think it's a lock, right? Like
No. This is the
there's
closest one you've said so
yeah,
far.
there's
Sadly.
worlds
Sadly.
where Williams K rate continues to be a massive issue.
Mhm.
Like the hit tool just doesn't come along, and the Rays are comfortable with a Walls Williamson kind of shortstop, not platoon kind of sorta, and that they just kind of rock with that. Maybe Williams comes up for a little bit, but I think there are more realities in which Williams does come up, and even if he doesn't like hit the ground running and like make the position completely his own, that he ends up with more playing time than a Taylor Walls. But based on comments, like Mark Topkin was on This Week in Rays Baseball, or one of the preseason podcasts with Rays Radio, and said it seems like Williams is going to go to AAA. I like
Mhm.
me personally. I still think there's stuff to. I don't know if Williams can develop any further at AAA. I do think there's a chance that if you made him your opening day shortstop and it didn't go well, not only could it kill his confidence, where then you have to send him back down, uh, it also like just could hurt the team. Like
Yeah,
there's a world in which he's a worse hitter than Taylor Walsh to start the season because
totally.
you're striking out over 35% of the time, and then you just become a black hole, and it's hard to get out of that. So I'm not saying to send him to AAA to develop him into it. Like, I saw that development over the course of last season, and he did get better at AAA. And then when he went up to the big leagues, he sank again at the plate. So I want the Rays to be patient with him, and I want the Rays fans to be patient with him, because I do think Carson Williams is going to be a decent major league player. I don't think he is like a franchise saving shortstop, which when your top prospect is like first round pick, shortstop, it's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, here's our guy.
He needs to carry us.
I don't think he's that, and I don't think he needs to be that on this Rays team. So I think they're going to slow play it with him again this year.
I mean, I think you're dead on though about like the reasoning behind. Like, I think we both agree like we would like to see Carson start the season in the majors, and
We all have Taylor Walls fatigue. We don't have to hide that we.
it's been a long time. It's been a long time. But I do think there is the discussion of like there's nothing left to learn at the AAA level, and mentally, how do you recover from a 40% K rate and just like feeling like a complete failure, and then going back down and then coming back up, and then like knowing like, okay, if I cannot strike out, I have to do well, otherwise I go back down again. Then you're in this point where you're like, I think when you call up Carson, you really want him to have the keys and to stay up. And so if you're like, let's let him get his feet under him in AAA, repeat the level, really show like he's cutting on those strikeouts, he's performing like we saw him perform. Like he's a proven performer in the minor leagues. If he kind of keeps showing that, you can call him up, you can give him the keys, he can be that starter. And then like if the struggles are there, you can stick by him. But I do agree, like there is a danger there of like he starts the season and it's Whiff City and he is suddenly not feeling it, and now you have like 6 months is a long time. That's a long season. And if you send him down, it's rough. You can roll with Taylor Walls and Ben Williamson to kind of do that at the start of the season, and then yeah, I mean I think like we know Walls will bring the good defense. Like one of the best gloves at shortstop. Williamson, we believe, can do shortstop really well. He's an elite defensive infielder. Shortstop is the hardest on the spectrum, but I think he could definitely do well there. So I think the Rays will be fine at the bottom of the order, but I do think we're all ready to see the Carson era. But I think the Rays are smart enough to know that like there's a big part of this is mental, and the struggles that can really affect careers basically.
Yeah, I think like Carson's struggles at the big league, it was 106 plate appearances, so I don't want to read too much into it, but I think his struggles went a little bit under the radar during the season because of how boring the second half of the season was, and we were kind of just playing out the string, and it looked like things weren't going well. So it was bad. It was bad over about a month and a half or whatever it was of games. 172 batting average, a 219 on base percentage, and just a 354 slug. So it was a 54 WRC plus. And again, I don't want to read too much into this because I think the glove is really good. I don't think it's quite Walls level, but some of the defensive metrics didn't love Williams as well at the big league level. I have no worries about him defensively moving forward. I think he is going to be at worst an above average shortstop, which is really valuable defensively. So I'm not worried about him, but I do think the bat is a concern. And again, the Rays really like Taylor Walls, so who knows?
They do.
It does make it an interesting question.
They're a pitching and defense team. They're a pitching and defense team, and Taylor Walls is an absolute weapon on defense. So
yeah. Here we go. Here we go again.
Let's ride. Broncos Nation, let's ride.
All right. That is going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice, but you can still get us wherever you get your podcast. If you're still watching along with us on YouTube and you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. If you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice and you want to become a Raise Your Voice Patreon member, you can do so for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/raise your voice. As always, make sure to head on over to draisebay.com to check out all of that great Raise coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we will